UAP, unidentified anomalous phenomenon. Are they extraterrestrial, interdimensional, time travelers in origin, or are they simply a result of top-secret military projects, false flag alien invasions, PSYOP, drones, or other human-made aircraft? Join the discussion now on UAP Crossfire.
Wow, okay. Hey, welcome to UAP Crossfire, where four guys get together and talk about the biggest secret in the universe. Are we alone? Or is it just a myth? Or whatever it is. So, my name is Chris DePerno. I'm one of the co-hosts of this show. And right next to me on the top layer in that beautiful red plaid shirt that he's got there, we lovingly call him the Padre, but his real name is Dan Carlson. Hello, Dan.
Good evening. How are things in your neck of the woods tonight, Chris?
I am just ducky up here. The sun had been out all day. It was a nice warm weather. No rain, no floods, no nothing. And I do want to say I do feel, please remember those people down in Texas that did have the flooding. We all pray for them, and we hope that they can recover quickly and they get the help that they need. And that being said, down right below me is our pilot of the show. He doesn't like to be called an expert, but I highly regard him as a man of great knowledge. Commander Cobra.
Well, good evening, everyone. And I echo your words, Chris, regarding Texas and New Mexico that had tragic floods as well. And we keep all those folks in thoughts and prayers. And it's great to see you all. Apparently, you will see me moving very slow on the screen. I look like a Second City TV skit tonight with my signal capability, but hopefully my voice will come through okay.
Your voice is coming through just golden. And, of course, I love this guy. He's the silverback of ufology. He's the man who has the answers that nobody knows. His name is Don Eckert, and we all love him. Hello, Don.
Chris, before I go anywhere, I got to tell you, I noticed, buddy, your face is as naked as a baby's bare butt. You shaved.
You're the only one that noticed. I got rid of my goatee.
I was a criminal investigator, by God. I noticed these little things.
Hey, that's sharp. You picked that up. I did shave. I got to tell you, here's the reason. I'm probably going to get in trouble for this. So somebody in my family, I won't say who, looked and said, "Oh my God, look at your mustache." I go, "What's wrong with my mustache?" He says, "It's all black right here in the middle, and on the sides it's gray. You look like Hitler." Hitler? I don't look like Hitler. Get the hell out. You look like Hitler. So I had to shave it off. And I said, if I shave the mustache off, I got to get rid of the goatee. So the damn beard that I have only goes gray on the outside, and it's all black on the inside of my mustache. So I mean, I can't go around looking like that. Maybe people have noticed, but this person noticed. So
I keep telling my wife I try to have situational awareness, and you ought to hear what she says to me. So anyway,
you know what? You can take the cop out of the house, but you can't take the house out of the cop. Or what do they say? Something like that. I don't know. I got it reversed. But once you're a cop, you're always a cop. Something, right?
Hey, it's the way it goes, buddy. The way it goes.
Same thing with the military. Once you're a pilot, you're always a pilot, right, Commander?
I agree.
I used to hate facial hair, but it grew on me eventually.
Well, I'm just saying to you, Padre, once a Padre, you're always a Padre, right?
Yep.
Okay. And stuff. Well, we got a great guest tonight. He's done a lot of exceptional things. And I tell you, I read his bio. I had to read it 3 times because this guy is amazing. He's done a lot of stuff in his career. He's written books. He's been on television shows. He owns a, publishing company and stuff. So let's get to Dan Harary. So Dan is a man of many talents. He's best known for his 40-plus years of work in Hollywood as an entertainment industry publicist and owner of a boutique Asbury PR agency in Beverly Hills. I don't know what all that means, but I'm sure he's going to tell us.
Either do I, quite frankly.
I don't. Hey, but Dan is also the author of 4 novels: Flirting with Fame, After They Come, My Paranormal Life, and 5. Flirting with Fame recounts Dan's 50 years of celebrity close encounters. I got to ask him all about that because he says everyone from Bruce Springsteen to Hugh Hefner and Meryl Streep to Kiss and even Steven Spielberg between 1972 and 1922, after they came in Dan's original sci-fi UFO Benevolent Aliens novel. So we got to ask him all about that. But, you know, in addition, Dan is also a 4-time UFO experiencer. This guy has not only written about them, studied them, he's had actual encounters with them. He's a longtime member of the Southern California chapter of MUFON, the chairman and creator of the Hollywood Disclosure Alliance, and the host of a weekly podcast called entitled From Hollywood, It's Paranormal Tonight. It airs on a newly launched HDA YouTube channel. So, and also, I forgot, I almost said the Wow Signal News Service. He's gonna, I mean, there's so much stuff he does. I don't know how he has time. So let's welcome Dan to the show.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yeah, I've done a lot of things. My 4 UFO experiences melded together and became something collectively much, much larger. And I can go into that.
All right. So, Dan, I want to just start off before you get interrogated by the bunch here.
Sure.
I'd like to ask you, how did you start getting involved with UFOs and that kind of nature?
Okay. Well, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. I am a Hollywood publicist. A publicist basically gets a client or a film or a TV show or a play or an award show or an event or a band or an author, anything, gets them media coverage that's not paid for. That's what a publicist does. It's free media coverage. I've been doing this for over 40 years. You know, today people think publicity is, oh, I did a Facebook posting or I tweeted, and then you go home and make a sandwich. I'm old school, man. I've gotten clients into the New York Times and People Magazine and CNN and Entertainment Tonight and every possible media for the last over 42 years. So I am an old school Hollywood publicist. I represented Jay Leno when he got the Tonight Show. I represented Sid Caesar, Milton Berle, Steve Allen. I did an event with Bob Hope. I mean, I've been. I just turned 69, but I've been around for a really long time.
Congratulations!
Thank you.
Yeah.
I just turned. Well, I think it's the Hasidic rabbinical beard. Speaking of beards, I have a funny beard. I have a funny beard story to tell you guys. I haven't shaved or gotten a haircut since COVID, and it's basically gone as long as it can be. I live in a nice part of Beverly Hills, not where the millionaires are, but I live in a nice part of Beverly Hills. Where I live there are many, many very deeply religious Jewish families and Jewish schools and temples where I live. Now I'm Jewish, so I can say this. A few weeks ago, I went to the drugstore to pick up a prescription, and it was a new lady at the counter, and she goes, "Oh, Rabbi Friedman, I have your medication." And I go, "What did you just say?" She goes, Rabbi Friedman. I go, my name is Dan Harary. I'm not a rabbi. What? You're not a rabbi? She couldn't believe it. Blew her mind. So sometimes you can misjudge a Jewish person with a beard and think that they're a rabbi.
Well, you blew that discount.
I should have.
After you paid, you should have said, "Hey, what are you?" Well, you might have got the wrong medicine. Did you?
I would have gotten
the right medicine.
I would have got the. Well, you know what she said? She said. I swear, she looked at me and she goes, "You have a twin brother." So I need to find this Rabbi Friedman. I mean, I really should check him out. I have a doppelganger, apparently.
Not only did you miss out, you didn't get the kosher one either. I'm kind of hurting for you.
That's okay. That's okay. All right. How did I get started?
Yep.
My all that I do today began in March 1970. Okay. Here's the story that launched everything that came after. March 1970, I was 13 years old. I grew up in suburban New Jersey near Asbury Park. It's where Bruce Springsteen started from. The side story is I did work with Bruce in when I was 16 years old, 1973. He asked me and my friend to go on the road with them as their road crew, and we said, we don't even drive cars yet, Bruce. So I think we're going to have to pass. So that's a true story. That's a whole other story. So my dad picked me up from school one day, March 1970. It was a sunny afternoon, suburban New Jersey. We're driving home. As we're driving home, I'm 13 in the passenger seat, obviously. I see through the windshield above my father's car a huge silver V like Victor, huge silver V craft is hovering above my father's car silently and moving along with the car. So I looked through the windshield. I said, Dad, stop the car. Stop the car. There's a UFO. Stop the car. There's a UFO, Dad. We stopped the car. We got out. We walked in front of the car. We're standing, looking in daylight at this huge, enormous silver craft. No smoke, no wings, no propellers, right? No sound, just this beautiful thing, gleaming, shiny silver, 300 feet above my father's car. I'm literally, you guys, I'm going, Dad, look, Dad, it's Star Trek. It's Star Trek. This is 1970. So Star Trek was a new TV show. Dad, it's Star Trek. Look, my father looked at it like, bored to tears, couldn't care less, no interest of any kind, looked at it, looked at his shoes, looked at his watch, he's looking at his car, no interest of any kind. My father, it's like the eighth wonder of the world, like a pyramid of Egypt is above my father's car. My father couldn't care less. Okay, that's the entirety of where I'm going to go with my whole rest of my life. That moment. Okay, so my dad had no interest. After a few minutes, my dad turned to me. He said, come on, kid, let's go home. Okay, we got in the car. We drove home. I go home, 1970, rotary phone. If you guys remember rotary.
Oh, yeah.
Unfortunately, yes.
Yeah, so 1970, rotary. I call the Asbury Park Press, my hometown newspaper. I go, hi, my name is Danny. I'm 13. I just saw a UFO with my dad in West Deal, and it was a silver V. And the lady said to me, you guys, she said, Sonny, I can't talk to you right now. We're getting hundreds of phone calls about this. I can't talk to you. I'm very sorry. I have to go. I remember it clear as day. That's what she told me, this lady. She hung up on me. No article ever ran in that paper. Okay. Now, here's the first killer part of the story. I forgot about that event for 47 years.
Wow.
Completely was not in my brain. For 47 years. I never talked about it with my dad. We never told my mother or my two younger brothers. I never told any friends. Is that not, I mean, that right off the bat, is that not remarkable? I couldn't tell you why.
I'd say that's a little strange that you didn't remember it or just put it in the back of your mind.
It out. It was in it. It was a to Z. It was an hour of my life. Once I'm home and I'm probably playing my new drum set or something. And then that was it. That was it. It was just gone forever. Okay, so that's the kernel that gave birth to all the things that I do today, 100 years later. The next step in my ufology, I'll call it the history of my ufology. The next step was many years later, 1996. Now, I'm married and divorced at this time. I'm living in California. My ex-wife and my two children, they were 8 and 6 at the time, moved out to Lancaster, California, which is the high desert, about an hour out of LA where I was living, near Edwards Air Force Base. So this is now, so for 1970, now the next kernel is 1996. I got my son turned 8 that summer. I got him a telescope. We're outside in the backyard at my ex-wife's house in Lancaster. Crystal clear sky, not far from Edwards. We look up, we see the moon, we see the stars, we see Mars, everything you see, which is great with a telescope. And then a very bright egg-shaped light just appeared in the sky. And it traveled all the way across the sky in a straight line. And I said to my son, I said, Jordan, look, it's a satellite. Isn't that cool? It's a satellite. It had to be. You could tell it was a metallic object all the way across the sky. Then it stopped, you guys. It stopped in place for 30 seconds. It stopped in place for 30 seconds. Now think about that. I said, Jordan, that satellite's going to fall to Earth. I thought the satellite had gotten broken, and literally I was expecting it to just plummet. 30 seconds after it was stopped, it reversed course and it went all the way back the way it came from. Now, what can do that?
Well, not a satellite that I know of. Can that happen, Commander?
Not a satellite, not if it's in orbit.
Not an asteroid,
direction in orbit.
Not an asteroid, a meteor, a comet.
You would have seen, some kind of propulsion, I would expect.
No, I only think, here's what I think. It was either an extraterrestrial craft, a drone. Maybe it was an early drone. This is 1996. Maybe it was a drone. Jimmy Church, who's a friend of mine, said, Dan, you were near Edwards. It was probably a military man-made craft. Okay. I think that was a military man-made craft. It wasn't far from Edwards. So that was my second UFO sighting. Okay. The third one, the next step in my thing is 2007. I went to a bookstore to kill some time. I'm just in a bookstore to kill some time here in LA. And there's a huge paranormal books aisle. I'd never heard of paranormal books. I didn't know what that meant. And there's books about the history of ufology and crop circles and the Nazca lines and the pyramids and Bigfoot and, Betty and Barney Hill, Travis Walton, Richard Dolan's books, Stanton Friedman's books, all of these wonderful books. This is 2007. I had never known about any of these authors or books, or I never heard of MUFON. 07. I bought, you guys, I don't know, 15 books, I think. I just grabbed all of them and I read everything. And I said, this is amazing knowledge. This knowledge is blowing my mind. That 2007. In those books, I learned about MUFON for the first time. That's when I joined Southern California chapter of MUFON. You guys probably know Steve Murillo, I'm sure.
Yes, I've heard of Steve.
Okay, Steve Murillo ran SoCal MUFON.
Yeah,
sure. For many, Steve and I are still friends. He ran it for many, many years. So I joined SoCal MUFON in 07. They used to meet at a little church in North Hollywood. It held maybe 50 people, 60 people max. It was a little room in a little church. My very first MUFON meeting ever in my life, Giorgio Tsoukalos was the guest speaker.
Oh,
now,
wow.
this is 2 years before Ancient Aliens was a TV show. Okay, 2 years. So he was not famous. He did not have a TV show. He had the crazy hair still, the Giorgio hair.
Did he?
Yeah, of course. It's only 2 years before the show started. But he did 90 minutes on ancient astronaut theory as per his mentor, Eric von Daniken. Okay, so he's doing the pyramids and the statues in Easter Island and the Nazca lines and Machu Picchu and Travis Walton and Betty and Barney and ancient petroglyphs and Renaissance art UFOs for 90 minutes. Okay, I'm a virgin and I'm a total virgin in this field. Okay, it would be like seeing the Beatles for your very first rock concert in your life. It'd be like seeing the Beatles. My very first UFO meeting was Giorgio Tsoukalos for 90 minutes. I was like,
what a way to start.
I'm like, oh my God. And I'm not kidding. I got tears. I have tears. I'm like, this is the most incredible knowledge I have ever heard in my life. And I'm thinking, my parents, my teachers, my friends, my rabbis, nobody I ever knew in my whole life, not one person ever told me any of this information. Nothing. Okay. I was enthralled. After 90 minutes, I went up. I shook Giorgio's hand. I said, Giorgio, you just changed my entire view of the world. Literally, you changed my view of the world right tonight. I shook hands. He said, cool, man, you're one of us now. So that was very sweet. Okay, that's 07. 1 year later, 2008, at a MUFON meeting, you know who James Gilliland is? Any of you?
No.
ECETI Ranch?
Really? Which ranch?
You never heard of ECETI, ECETI, the ECETI Ranch. I'm really shocked. You don't know the ECETI Ranch?
I'm sorry, it doesn't come to mind right now.
Wow, it's been famous for quite a while. It's called the ECETI Ranch, ECETI. A man named James Gilliland.
Famous in what respect?
It's a famous UFO hotspot.
Famous in what respect?
A famous UFO hotspot for over 100 years. Okay. So James Gilliland owns about 250 acres of property at the base of Mount Adams. in Washington State. Now, Mount Adams is one mountain south of Mount Rainier. Mount Rainier, we all know, is where Kenneth Arnold had his sighting in June 47. This
Right.
is one mountain down, okay? This mountain is called the Mountain of Shining Lights by the Native American Indians who used to live there. For 100 years, they've seen lights coming and going out of this Mount Adams for 100 years. People from NASA and the military and governments and scientists from all over the world go to the ECETI Ranch for decades to study it there. It's a very well-known UFO hotspot. I'm surprised.
And also
Dan, is this the mountain, Dan, that the claim has been made that it's hollow and there is activity that emanates from beneath?
I believe that is Mount Shasta. I believe people talk about Mount Shasta in that regard.
But Mount Adams is a Bigfoot hotspot too, from what I've heard.
That's interesting, Dan. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yes,
So
that is
now,
correct.
okay. So it's 2008. James Gilliland, the owner of the ECETI Ranch, gives a talk at SoCal MUFON, and he shows videos and still photos of dozens and dozens of UFOs in the sky above his property. Now, these are crystal clear, high def. I mean, this is not like if you squint and you turn your head and hop on one foot, you could maybe see a light. These are UFOs, crystal clear, of every shape, size, and color. And I'm sitting there at his talk, and I had a girlfriend named Barbara at the time. She was a TV writer. I go, Barbara, we got to go to this place. We got to go. Please let me go. He was having an open house July 4th weekend, 2008, on the property for 3 days and nights on the property. And so we signed up. So my girlfriend and I schlepped, and it's way in the middle of nowhere, Washington State. So it's 200 acres of nothing. He lives in this little log house, James. So a little log house, 200 acres of absolutely nothing except, and then there's trees, and then there's Mount Adams. It's a field. It's a huge field. So for 3 days and nights, he had events. During the days, he set up this big white tent on the property, and they had lectures and panels and films. And I remember Nick Pope spoke there. William Henry spoke there. Other people spoke there about orbs and the pyramids and the Nazca Lens and all those kind of things during the afternoons. And then at night, they made a bonfire on the grounds. And then there were about 200 people total. And then men and women would play guitars and tambourines and sing and dance around the fire. And we would skywatch. We would skywatch for hours and hours and hours. Crystal clear sky, crystal clear, your stars, everything perfect. Looking back now, we were doing CE5 events, but in 2008, that term did not yet exist. The term CE5 did not yet exist in 2008. So we were doing a CE5 in 2008. So the first day was a Friday. Lectures, seminars, under the tent, bonfire, look up in the sky, hours and hours. Absolutely nothing happened. Next day was Saturday, same thing. Lectures in the tent, bonfire, hours and hours, absolutely nothing. The third and final day of the open house, same thing, more lectures and panels, another fire. We're looking up in the sky Sunday night for about 2 hours. Nothing, absolutely nothing. Here's where the story gets good. I reach in my pocket. Now, there were 200 cars on this property. Okay. And at the end of the night, at midnight, everyone had to go home. So this is like at 10 o'clock. I reach in, I pull my car keys out of my pocket. I said to my girlfriend, I go, Barbara, if we leave right now, we can beat the rush. Okay. I swear to God on my daughter's life, as soon as I said that, a huge black craft from nowhere came from behind. I swear to God, this is a true story. Came from behind us. 200 people on the ground with a bonfire. Huge black craft came over us, Chris, maybe 300 feet, maybe 400. I mean, low. It blacked out the sky. Okay. I looked up. I said out loud, "What the hell is that thing?" I thought someone was playing the job. Honestly, I thought like it was like a remote control toy that James Gilliland was trying to trick us. I really did. I thought it was a hoax. I thought it was a joke. It blocks out the sky. So we're all looking up, and now my heart's starting to beat fast. And I'm like, I don't know what that is, but that doesn't look normal to me. Then underneath this craft was a huge glass crystal bulb. It lit up. It went bzzz, and it lit up like a chandelier underneath.
What color, Dan?
Beautiful, dark emerald green light. Dark emerald green, like the Wizard of Oz, emerald green, in this bulb. I looked up. It was the most beautiful green I've ever seen, okay? So we're all looking up. Then here's where the story gets amazing. This light was then disseminated down upon us like this. It was like light, 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 light. It was like Morse code. Now, you know, in the X-Files, when they're all looking up and they see the white light, you know, they're all looking up. This was green. This was emerald green light, 200 people, emerald green light. We're looking up. Now, I'm getting messages from this light, not in my ear, not in my head. I'm getting in my heart. And I swear this is true, and I still feel it today. Hello, we're here. We're sorry we're late. We know you've been waiting for us. We love you. Don't be afraid. Everything's fine. We love mankind. Be kind to one another. Be kind to planet Earth. We were in the neighborhood. We have to go now. We'll see you another time. This is from the light. It was like Morse code. It really was like Morse code. So as this is happening, I'm shaking. My heart is racing. And I'm thinking, well, this is the most amazing thing in the history of my life. This is beyond belief. Okay, then the light went back into the bulb. It turned off. And then the craft just slowly moved away in front of us, slowly, slowly, slowly. And then bang, zoom, and it vanished in the direction of Mount Adams. Okay, well, now I'm crying. People are crying. People were hugging, were kissing, were crying. It was like, did that really just happen? And I knew we are not alone in the universe. That was not a Chinese weather balloon. That was not a military man-made craft. Whatever that was them. I know it was them, and it was a remarkable event in my life.
Dan, I got to ask you a question before I start going around table here. When you said that you heard it in your heart, I have all the years I have never heard that before. That's fascinating. Can you be more specific than you heard it in your heart?
It's exactly what it was. I just read a book recently where someone said they got a message in their heart. There's a message the heart is one of the chakras. Mm-hmm. But there is a term, Chris, there's a term for what happened to me.
Did it bring like sorrow or joy or?
No, I was enthralled. I was elated. That's when I cried. When this thing left, I was crying. And I said, I think I said to my girlfriend, well, we're not alone. Obviously, we're not alone. I mean, imagine, I could say this, imagine if your heart had ears, because it didn't. Now, I'm clairaudient. I've gotten messages in my ear maybe 10 times in my life. It's always the right ear. And it sounds like a man telling me things, and they have always come true every single time. This was in my heart. So I can tell you, it was like getting a message in your heart. It was like a hard wire from the craft into my heart. And my heart was like telling me, instead of, we all have feelings and emotions, sorrow,
right,
happiness, and you feel things in your heart. This was like English words. This was like, hello.
Yeah, I've never heard of that before.
We are here. English we love you. Don't be afraid. That's the only way I can describe it.
All right, let me start with Commander. Commander, so I have never heard of a message from the heart. How about you?
I have. That doesn't surprise me in the least. What I would like to ask Dan, what was your girlfriend's reaction to all this? What was that? What was the drive home? I would think that would be quite a experience as a couple.
That is such an excellent question, and the honest truth is, I do not remember. I really don't. In fact, people have said to me, didn't you talk to these other 200 people? No, we had to go because it was the end of the 3 days, and we all got in our cars and left. I don't, for the life of me. And then my girlfriend and I broke up a few months after that. But I don't. It's so funny. I never talked with my dad about that sighting with him. I never spoke to my son about this sighting with him. I never spoke to my girlfriend about this sighting with him. I don't know. I guess once these things happen, I just shut down internally. I just close off. But Commander Cobra, man, I don't remember that we spoke about it. Isn't that just the craziest thing?
It is, but it does seem to allude to a pattern that you have described now through your experiences, that whatever has happened to you seems to be very deeply personal connected, to the point that it almost takes you out of sync with everything else around you or that experience until you remember it later. You explained the one that in New Jersey at Asbury Park,
Right.
it obviously was seeded into your memory and into your experience, and then later on is when you recover that. So
Well, that's a major story. How I recovered is a huge story. We haven't got to there yet. But what you're saying is correct. I seem to have these remarkable moments in life, and then for whatever reason, they're very personal, I guess. But I don't remember talking to her about after that event. Okay, I'm almost half done with my stories here. The next event, so that was 08. The next major event, now from 07 till today, I've been going to SoCal MUFON meetings. So I've seen, Nick Pope and Richard Dolan and Steve Bassett, and Steve and I have become best friends. So I mean, I've seen everybody in the ensuing years. Okay, in 2017, here's where my life changed remarkably, all of a sudden. 2017, my father died. My father died in Florida. He had a bad death. He was with his second wife. I was here in LA. 3 days after my father died. Now, this story is true, and this story has made me semi-famous, and I swear to God, it's a true story. You're not going to believe it, but it's a true story. 3 days after my father died, I went to a deli here in LA to get a pastrami sandwich in his honor and to just be sad that my father was dead. I ordered my sandwich at a deli near UCLA. The waiter walked away. A beam of light or energy or something from above flew through the air, you guys, and hit me in the head like a hand with knuckles. It was like bang, hard into my head like this, bang. And then through my eyes was projected, swear to God this is true, a home movie from the 1970 UFO sighting I had with my father from 47 years earlier. It played in the air, color, 3D, hologram, home movie with audio. It played. And you could imagine this moment in my life. This is 3 days after my father died. And I have to tell you about my father because my father's the key to all of these stories. Okay, so I'm watching it. I see the car. I see the V. I see me jumping up and down. I'm in this little movie. And I see my dad. And it was as though God was a cameraman and God or something, I think it was the Akashic Records or something, had filmed this event like Cecil B. DeMille with a camera. Because I'm in it. It wasn't a memory. I'm in this little home movie. I saw it play. It played for maybe a minute. And I said out loud, oh my God, I remember that. I remember that. And I see me jumping up and down. Dad, look. This time in this little movie, you guys, my dad looked down at me. He winked at me. My father winked at me. And then he said, come on, kid, let's go home. Okay. Now this home movie stopped playing. It was perfectly rectangular, by the way. It was like high def. It was like there was a high def TV screen in the air. Okay. It played and then it just pixelated and went, it just dissipated away. Vanished. Now my heart's beating really fast. Now, I told you I'm clairaudient. I heard, get a pen, get a pen, get a pen. You need a pen, you need a pen, get a pen. I asked my waiter for a pen. On the table in front of me was a paper placemat. My hand did automatic writing. I've never done it before or since. My hand wrote 3 things. Write a book about benevolent aliens. Lead character's father knew about UFOs. Then I wrote capital A, capital T, capital C. Then my hand stopped moving. I picked up the paper and now I'm shaking. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? right? I just want a pastrami sandwich. I'm starving. I'm hungry. And I'm shaking. And I'm looking at this. Write a book about Benet. I go, well, I guess I have to write a book. Lead character's father knew about UFOs. My father had just died, you guys.
Sure.
How about that one? And then ATC, I looked and looked and looked and looked. And after about 5 minutes, I came up with my book. After they came, ATC. This book was given to me. It was given to me. It was a download from above. Now, that's A. That's part A. Then we can go to part B, which is all the other stuff that followed. But the key to the whole story is who was my father. And I discovered who my father was after he died. That'll be part 2 of this talk. If you have questions, I'm wide open.
Well, I'm going to start with Padre. Padre, this is a fascinating story because there's things I'm learning here that I have not heard before.
I agree. Certainly some interesting aspects to it. Dan, I was wondering if we can go back to that sighting you had with the group of other people and your girlfriend. Did you notice any missing time in that experience?
That's a really great question. No, I don't think I've had missing time from any of we didn't talk about the 4th sighting. We can do that in a minute. I don't think I've ever had missing time from those. However, separately, unrelated to UFOs, I had missing time when I was 5 years old. I fell off a sign. I was climbing a billboard sign with 2 little girlfriends. I was 5 years old, and I fell off the sign. And I remember falling 20, 25 feet. And as I was falling, I fell in slow motion. And then I woke up 2 blocks away on someone's couch. I have no idea how I got there. The girls were not there. I had missing time. And here's that story. When I woke up, I sat up. I thought I was dead. I remember thinking, am I dead? I'm 5 years old. I looked around. No one was in this house. It was a stranger's house 2 blocks away from the sign. I stood up to leave, you guys. Another true story. In front of the front door was a 6 or 7 foot tall cryptid. This story is in my book called My Paranormal Life.
All right, what can you describe the cryptid?
Yes, the cryptid was, I'm going to say, well, I was 5, but he was very tall. I'm going to say he was at least 6 feet tall. He had the face of a bull. It was like a bull. His body was like a V. There were bony stumps in his shoulders, and I knew instantly he had once had wings, and it looked like his wings had been clipped off with the hedge clippers because there were like these bony stumps. His legs, you guys, he had like donkey legs. And he looked at me and he went like that. He snorted at me. This thing snorted at me. And I remember thinking at the time, he doesn't like me very much. And then this thing walked through the front door and vanished. I walked outside, looked around at my mommy's house, the pink house. My mommy's house was a block to the left. I walked home. And I forgot about that story for about 50 years. But I have missing time. I had missing time because I remember falling from the sign in slow motion. And then I woke up a half hour later, an hour later, at a stranger's house. So that's my only missing time that I know of.
Crazy.
And this experience you just related where you said you felt like something hit you like very hard. Was there a physical response to that? I mean, were you knocked down or did you fall back?
Dan, it was like as soon as it felt like if someone had a fist with knuckles, like literally it felt like knuckles, and it was here, right here in the right part of my head, right here. Okay. I felt that hit, and then it felt like an electrical, like bzzz, like an electricity thing, like bzzz, going into my eyeballs. It was like bzzz, like I had put my finger in a light socket, like a bzzz, and then projected out through my eyes was this little home movie. I've told this story all over the world. People have said they've never heard a story quite like this one.
Was there anyone else there that saw you impacted by something?
No, I wish. I remember the restaurant was empty that day. It was me and the waiter. There was no one else around. But all I can tell you is that, and you know what? I didn't see the thing fly. Something flew through the air from my right. it was almost like a whistling sound, like I could sense something was coming at me. And then I felt this knock, this really hard knock. And then my eyes did like, bzz. It was like turning on a movie projector switch. It was like, and then it was like, and then projected out. Now, here's the theories of what that was. A, God, I don't know. B, the extraterrestrials from the 1970 sighting I had, or the extraterrestrials I had interactions with in 2008 with the green light, or what I personally believe, truly, I think my Father from heaven sent that home movie to me. He had just died, and I had just read it. Lead character's father knew about UFOs, and I think my Father sent that to me from heaven. Now I'll tell you why. My father worked for the U.S. Army for 45 years. He was a civilian electronics engineer and a physicist for Fort Monmouth, New Jersey. Part of Fort Monmouth, New Jersey, you guys, invented radar, FM radio, walkie-talkies, night vision, ground-to-air radio, weather satellites, drones, and a million other things they invented where my father worked. He worked at the radar branch from 1951 to 1996.
Dan, did he have a clearance by any chance?
Yeah, I'm sure he did. Okay, so now after this event, so I ate my sandwich. I drove home as quick as I could. I started writing my book after they came. And I just started writing it from the inspiration from that little home movie. Now, I called my mother. My mother's still alive. She'll be 91 in October.
Bless her.
I called my mother. This is April 2017. I called my mother. I said, Mom, did Dad ever talk about UFOs in all the years you guys were together? My mother said, and now here's a story, you guys, I had never heard in my life until I asked. My mother said, in the early 1960s, they took your father deep into the vault at Fort Monmouth Army Base. They showed him something that was above top secret. She said he came home, he was pale and shaking and very upset and very nervous. My mother said, honey, what's wrong? My father said to my mother, I saw something today in the vaults. I can never, it's above top secret. I can never tell you or anyone about it as long as I live. My mother said my father walked down the hall, and my mother said your father was never the same after that day. Okay, now I never heard that story until after my father died. Okay, so now I have a lot of anecdotal information about my father. Number one, he and I saw an incredible UFO together. He had no reaction, and then he winked at me. Okay, that's number one. Number two, he worked at Fort Monmouth Army Base Radar Top Secret Division for 45 years. Never told a soul what he did for a living. Number three, my mother told me that story. He had seen something above top secret. Okay, now there's more anecdotal information. After he died, I went through my old scrapbooks to look at pictures of my dad. I found a profile of my father from 1985 in one of my scrapbooks. I didn't know I had it. This is now 2017. My father, you guys, my father invented or helped to invent military drones.
No way.
My father tested, ready for this? My father supervised the testing of the first ever drone, military drone, that used a laser to destroy a tank at White Sands Missile Testing Grounds. I have that in writing.
Dan, what year was that?
He did it in 1975. In 1975.
And this is your father.
My father helped invent modern day military drones. Now nobody knew this in my whole family. We didn't know this. Okay, that's a big one. Richard Dolan has a book called UFOs in the National Security State. In the back of that book are UFO sightings above military bases. In 1951 and in 1952, there were two major UFO sightings on radar above Fort Monmouth, New Jersey. My father started working there in the fall of 51, and in 52. So he was there for both of those events. Now, even if my father had not seen them, had been outside and seen them with his eyes, he was in the radar branch. He had to have known that these two UFO events above his workplace had just happened. He absolutely had to have known that. Okay, now we get to a few more really good ones. In 2023, Stephen Greer did a press conference in Washington, D.C. He was talking about all the whistleblowers he has lined up who are ready to testify before Congress. During that event, it was on TV. I have a big TV. We all have a big TV. He showed a slide, you guys, of 150 U.S. military bases that Stephen Greer has proof of through his whistleblower network that worked on reverse engineering of recovered ET technology. 150 U.S. military bases. I freeze-framed my TV. I went through the list with my finger. Number 51 on this list, Fort Monmouth, New Jersey, where my father worked his whole life. They worked on reverse engineering of ET technology. And here's the cherry. I just read this book a month ago. It's called McCarthy, Monmouth, and the Deep State. This is about Joe McCarthy's hearings with the U.S. Army. During these hearings, it came out that my father's workplace, Fort Monmouth, New Jersey, specifically the radar branch where my father worked for 45 years, was involved with Project Blue Book. How about that?
Well,
I
that's a
found this.
horrible story.
I found this out of two weeks ago. In fact, I called my mother to tell her. Okay, my father knew about UFOs. There's no question in my mind. I know he did. I know it in my heart. I think that little home movie was from my father from heaven, who said to me, Danny, remember that UFO we saw 47 years ago? I knew what that was. I had a hand in it, or I knew I was involved with it, or I knew what it was. I could never tell you my whole life because of NDAs that I had, Danny. I'm dead now. I'm on the other side. I have no more NDAs. And that UFO that you and I saw together, I was involved with that. And that, honest to God, in my heart, I believe my father gave me that little movie from heaven to tell me what he did his whole life for a living. I really do.
Mm-hmm. That's an incredible story, Dan. But I want to bring Don Eckert in. Don, you've heard Dan's story. I mean, it seems like his father very much was involved with reverse engineering of these objects.
Oh, I'm not surprised. First, Dan, I want to welcome you to UAP Crossfire. It's a pleasure having you here.
Thank you so much.
When I saw your Hollywood disclosure movement on your link,
yes,
I became very curious, and I'll tell you why in a moment.
Sure.
But what I would like to know is, what do you folks in that disclosure movement intend to do? And do you believe that disclosure will eventually be, or recently, soon, be achieved? And if you do, to what extent?
Great questions. Thank you very much. I'll answer your second question first. I personally, and others in our group, and names that you guys would know, we've had private talks. None of us believe that disclosure will happen from President Trump or the new Pope or the King of England or Putin or Netanyahu or any world leader. We don't think official disclosure will happen anytime soon from any world leader because they have no gain. There is no gain for any world leader to disclose. Having said that, my group, Hollywood Disclosure Alliance, what we are is, well, let me just back up a second. My book After They came out 2 years ago, 2023. When it came out, I met Stephen Bassett at a UFO conference, and we became very good friends instantly. He and I had a long lunch in Hollywood. We came up with Hollywood Disclosure Alliance as a networking group by which two historically disparate groups could network and interact with each other. One of our groups are UAP, ET, UFO experiencers, researchers, and disclosure advocates. The other half, Don, makes us unique, are Hollywood writers, producers, directors, podcasters, TV show producers, and people with radio shows as well.
Okay.
You might want to, you might want to go to the homepage on that one.
Sure. Now, I don't know.
Well, hold on. Let me tell you. Okay, there it is. There's our homepage. So, Don, our mission is to unite these two disparate groups through online events, live networking events, and we have a 24-hour chat room. So people, here's how I say it. People with real life stories, remarkable experiences, and real life stories can interact with producers and writers who want to create the next era of films, TV shows, and documentaries based on the real life experiences of real life people. That's what this group, we have 220 members as of today.
Excellent. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with me, if you've heard my name.
I have heard your name.
Okay. My wife, Vicki, originally Vicki Cooper, began UFO magazine in 1986. In 1988, I became the director of research, and we published that magazine for over 20 years. And when I tell you that I have interfaced with practically anybody or everybody in that field,
I know you have.
From that point forward, trust me, I have.
I know.
We butted heads with the Pentagon. We butted heads with NASA, etc. Okay, I've squared off with practically every skeptic in the United States worthy of note, from Philip Klass to Jim Oberg to, all of them actually. Now, with that being said, over the years, I've written various position papers. And a couple of years ago, when the disclosure movement achieved the level of notoriety that basically it has today, with the congressional hearings, with people like whistleblower David Grouch and others.
Right.
Believe me, I was tuned right in.
Me too. I watched them live. Yeah.
You bet. Now, here's the thing. In all of this time, prior to 2017, when now deceased former Nevada Senator Harry Reid had his press conference announcing funding the ATIP program.
Right.
Okay. I never, in all of those years, going back to, well, actually, even before 1988, I had a hell of a sighting of my own in 1966 in my home state of Pennsylvania. So this is something that has intrigued me since that period of time. Now, with all the people that I have known, I have interfaced with, and the people that I've talked to, from government people, both in and outside, from researchers across the spectrum. And as a matter of fact, I gave the very first book review on Richard Dolan's book, UFOs in the National Security State, back in the early 2000s when that came out.
Okay. Richard's a friend of mine. Yeah, I love Richard. He's a great guy.
Excellent, superb book. I was totally impressed by it. Okay. But I got to say this. In all of that time, I became aware, and I believe this to be fervently true, that the UFO conundrum will never be disclosed, especially by the government.
I agree.
The reason for that being that there is, and I've called it, not only me, as a matter of fact, I didn't coin this term, others have, but there is a core secret within this. And this core secret, okay, by all accounts, terrifies the bejesus out of military and intelligence people. Now, what that may be, I don't know. I wrote a paper a little over a year ago called Disclosure, A Dangle Too Far. And in there, I lay out a tremendous amount of information, including people that I've known, have been friends with, people like Ingo Swann and Project Stargate, what happened to him, people like Dr. John Brandenburg, who was a deputy director on the Clementine mission almost 2 decades after the Apollo program was shut down. Suddenly, we go back to the moon. Why? For over 20 years, I conducted lunar transient phenomena research. I believe, Dan, there's a presence on the moon. Now, with all of this being said, not incidentally, not indigenous, but a base of some type. With all of that being said, with this spy satellite, with the camera equivalent to the KH-11 spy satellite, this thing is beyond belief what it can do. They've been up there looking at the moon. Why? They've completely remapped the moon. Why? Well, I'll tell you what I discovered in my own background. I'm a Vietnam veteran. I served over there for 26 months. I was involved in intelligence. And if something popped up that was not known before, we would invariably send in reconnaissance aircraft to check it out, come back at a later date to see if there were any changes, any additions, subtractions, whatever, and then leave. And then the authorities would decide what action they may or may not want to take. Now, going back to the moon with Clementine, I don't know about anybody else, but that told me bundles of what probably is going on behind the scenes. Like I said, I was in that world for a while.
Right.
Now, with all of that being said, Dan, do you really think that these people, your producers, your directors, your writers, do you really believe, in light of all the bullshit going on today, that it may make a difference?
I do. I do, because our mission is, again, to present for every Travis Walton, Betty and Barney Hill, or the guys from Pascagoula, right? We all know those stories. There are probably...
Dan, I'm going to interrupt you there because we got to go to break. We got to take a
sure.
hard break, but as soon as we come back, please answer that question.
Okay, sure, absolutely.
Folks, we're going to be right back with Dan.
So you don't care about his life. You just care about covering up your little top secret stuff going on. Meanwhile, this man's dying. How dare you put these people in the military to defend us, and then when they come out, you just kick them to the curb.
MUFON is the voice of thousands of like-minded people who want to see change. We speak up against UFO secrecy. We engage governments and agencies around the world on the topic. We share information with the public through our journal, website, newsletter, social media, and even our own TV channel. When you join MUFON, you add your voice to the cause. Few things are more important in our time than understanding the UFO question. Join MUFON. Find your friends.
We are back with Dan Harary. Dan, before the break, you were going to answer Don's question. Let's start it from there.
Sure. Okay. What I was starting to say was, for every Betty and Barney, the guys in Pascagoula, and Travis Walton, I would say those are probably the most recognizable abduction, UFO, ET, NHI stories that we know of. And in fact, Pascagoula is not as famous as the other two. For each, in the last 5 years, I have met hundreds and hundreds of people who have remarkable stories. I'm not counting including myself. I know women who have been abducted, impregnated, had their fetuses removed, and been shown their hybrid children years later. I know people that have been on ET operating tables with the tubes and the experiments and things that were painful. I have a friend who is literally friends with a male and female Pleiadian who come visit him every few years. They have helped him become a multimillionaire businessman. He's very, very successful. He's been communicating with them since the age of 5. He's in his 60s now. So there are a million stories of real people who have had real experiences that have yet to be told. So Don Ecker, to answer you, our hope is that to help nurture these stories so they can be seen on a screen and shared. I do not think
Dan, the whole conundrum of UFO secrecy could be dissolved last night.
Oh, of course.
These people, sentient beings, whatever they are, decided to land and announce themselves, but they don't.
Exactly.
And they haven't, Dan, for thousands of years. This is not a new phenomenon.
Right.
This goes back to pre-biblical time.
I know.
And
I agree with you.
This is something that I got to tell you, I am very mistrustful for, because in my purview, the background I came from, you don't sneak into somebody's house, abduct somebody, impregnate them, bring them back, unceremoniously drop them off. Not if they're your friends. Now, if they're not your friends, that's something else entirely. And since these things have not announced themselves, I see no good in it at all. That's my take on it.
Okay. Well, I believe there are benevolent extraterrestrials. I believe there are malignant ones, and I believe there are evil ones. In fact, Nick Pope gave a talk a year ago. I was in the front row. Nick Pope said, people, be careful what you wish for with disclosure. He goes, this is Nick Pope. He goes, I know for a fact there are many races of extraterrestrials that are demonic and evil, and we don't want to know about them. Okay,
and where did he get that information?
He didn't reveal it, but that was from Nick Pope. And then there's my best friend, Steve Bassett. The disclosure is going to happen tomorrow. Donald Trump's going to say we're not alone. It's going to be unicorns and rainbows running down the streets here in Beverly Hills. So, and these are good friends of mine. So I said to Nick, I said, have you ever talked to Steve Bassett about evil demonic? And he goes, yeah, Steve doesn't want to hear about it. Don, I agree with you. There are many different races, apparently. I've heard 120 races. Do you guys know the name Craig Campobasso?
No.
Anyone know?
I've heard it.
Okay. Craig Campobasso, he's a member of my group. He is an author. He wrote the Extraterrestrial Species Almanac. You all should pick it up. He has 82 different ET species delineated in this book. It took him 25 years to research it. There are no real photos of ETs, but there are illustrations. And he has where each of them are from, their characteristics. And this is all based on experiencer interviews he's been doing for about 25 years. It's a fascinating book.
And of course, we're going to absolutely believe anything that these entities are telling the people they're abducting and putting probes up in.
Well, that's a whole other can of worms.
Well, I'm looking at it from my standpoint as being a former criminal investigator. Okay, that's how I filter all of this, is through my and not only me, Chris DePerno also. I mean, we've had many talks about this, and it's something that well, maybe I'm just cynical, Dan. Maybe I'm cynical.
All right, so
I
Don,
gotta tell you, I'm skeptical.
I believe you. Listen, I am too. But for me personally, okay, let's go to my 2008 event with the green light. Okay, I was elated. I felt joy. I feel it here in my heart right now. However many, 17 years later? Those were benevolent extraterrestrial. I know it. I know they were. They told me. Those were benevolent. Now there are demonic, there are benevolent, there are evil, there are the little grays. Who knows if the grays are good, bad, or ugly?
Well, you know about the Pentagon, right?
My dad used to give talks at the Pentagon.
Well, no. I'm talking about in recent, the last couple of decades.
Well, the Wall Street Journal of 2 weeks ago, it said everything was bullshit, and they threw Robert Salas, a friend of mine, they threw him under the bus. You know about that?
Oh yeah, we know, Bob. Look, I had a chance, and I briefly on the telephone met Lou Elizondo.
Okay.
A couple of times where Elizondo basically brushed me off. Okay. I wanted to get him on my radio show, Dark Matters Radio. And Elizondo kept ghosting me. So it didn't take me long to figure out that somebody warned him against talking to me. That's my take on it.
That sounds
but
right.
With that being said, whatever. But with that being said, I got to say that at one point, Elizondo told me that when he was in the Pentagon, that there is a group within the Pentagon called the Collins Elite that basically consider all of this demonic and warned him to stay away from it. Now,
Okay.
I have no doubt. I've been around the world a number of times. I have literally, and I have no doubt that there's a lot of bad actors out there. But the same would hold true for this. Now, I have no doubt there are some, and besides, in all those years we did UFO Magazine.
Right.
If I told you some of the people we talked to, that I've talked to, it would likely blow your mind. But one thing that I got almost universally from everybody I considered that had some gravitas is that there are a number of groups coming here. And at that time, I was told by several people that there were at least 7. And in that group of different sentient beings, 1 or 2 groups were very favorably disposed to the human race for whatever reason, I don't know. Then there were several, 2 or 3 groups that were basically benign. They were coming here on some type of a mission. But there was at least 1 group that was inimical to the human race. Now, I never could figure that out. Because let's face it, on the scale of things, we're basically hairless monkeys. Out of the
not so hairless sometimes.
Well, some of us are hairier than others.
And Chris recently not.
Yeah, Chris kind of de-haired.
De-haired.
But anyway, with all of that being said, there are those, okay, and they scare me, quite frankly. These proponents of the Space Brothers, they're coming here to help us, to save us. They're going to give us a better mousetrap. They're going to give us, medicine to cure cancer, blah, blah, all this pixie farts and fairy dust. And so far, we're all still waiting. I still haven't seen that great mousetrap. And I'll be honest, Dan, I think they're stringing us along as long as they can. And they're continuing to do whatever it is they're doing, and they're doing it in the dark. I don't agree with that. I don't like it.
Well, Dr. Avi Loeb from Harvard and Chaim, is it Chaim Ashed? I believe it's
Yes, from Israel.
From Israel. Both of those two men, and they're both Israeli, have said that they believe, and then, Don, this goes to your point, they believe that the ETs themselves have instructed whoever our dark government is, our leaders, our military government, whoever is, I call them the great-great-grandsons of the Majestic 12. I think who's ever running the truth embargo today are probably the great-great-grandsons of all those imbeciles that Harry Truman put in a room in September 47. And I think it's familial. I think it's the son to the grandson to the great-grandson. But all those people that the ETs themselves have instructed our controllers, they do not want to be revealed yet, that perhaps the human race is not ready to be revealed. But Don, like you said, in fact, in my book, after they come and they land in Dodger Stadium. They land in Dodger Stadium, and they say to the world, "Hey, we're here. We love you. Everything's cool." Like the aliens told me with the green light. I'm an optimist. I'd like to think that they would come and some of them.
Do you remember the Twilight Zone, Dan?
To Serve Man. It's my favorite episode.
Exactly. And we thought, wow, they're coming down here to help us out. No.
It's a cookbook.
By God, it was a cookbook.
Don't get on. It's a cookbook. Don, that's my favorite episode of Twilight Zone ever.
Well, you guys are okay because by the time they get to me, man, they'll have enough steaks on their grill for a year. So they won't have to worry about that.
There's something I wanted to say to Don's earlier point. What I'm hearing now all the time from HDA and from I do the PR for Contact in the Desert, so I was talking to 2,300 people that are there, just exaggerating. But what we're talking about now, all you guys, is we are disclosure. That seems to be the new term. We are disclosure. We're not going to wait for Trump or Putin or the Pope or the King or whoever. The more stories, Don, the more stories that we come out that are credible, until they land in Times Square or Dodger Stadium, like in my book, until they do that, the more stories that come out and the more whistleblowers that come forward. I know Bob Salas is dying to talk to Congress. They're trying to make that happen. Danny Sheehan and Steve Bassett are trying to make that happen. Until these people can come forward, there's got to be a tipping point with just regular people going, yeah, I believe. Until the day comes when either they reveal themselves or a world leader does. I don't think a world leader is going to do it. I don't see any gain. If President Trump said today, they're here, they've been here 10,000 years, I have to go play golf now. What gain? What gain? I don't see any gain for a world leader. So I disagree with Steve Bassett on this topic.
Well, I never believed that president would do what Trump is doing these days.
Oh, well, that's all another
cutting
story.
Back. Exactly. Yeah, but cutting back on alleged government fat, draining the quote unquote swamp.
Let's not go there.
Well, I got to tell you, it's unthinkable.
I'm in a good mood. I don't want to talk about that asshole right now.
No. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether you like him or hate him. Okay, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the strides he is doing that is upsetting the deep state. You don't like the guy? Hey, I understand that. You love the guy? Okay, I understand that too. But that's not what this is about. It's not about whether you love or hate Trump. Trump is an anomaly since George freaking Washington.
Oh,
there has been nobody that has come forward like that guy has.
All right. Well,
okay.
Let's
I've got a guy from Hollywood here, and this kind of ties into what you were saying earlier, Dan, about disclosure and a concern that I have, and that is, and I know this is a concern in Hollywood, the ability with AI to deceive. How are we going to be able to know? If somebody discloses, you say we are disclosure. And one of the biggest problems that if you're referring to the UFO so-called community.
No, we the people.
Okay,
We-
but there's someone, I could within an hour produce a very convincing video of
Yeah.
Space Brothers landing on my lawn.
Absolutely.
And a few people, probably people on this panel and others or experts in video would be able to discern, well, that's just a joke, that's a hoax. But we have so lost the ability to critically think in this country that I don't see how disclosure, even if it happened, you'd have half the country that would believe it, half that wouldn't, depending upon who did the disclosure. How do we get to the truth of the matter?
That's an excellent question. When digital visual effects really were becoming prominent was the early 90s. Steven Spielberg, which Jurassic Park was the first big digital effects movie. That was the early 90s. When that came along, any of you guys, I don't consider myself really a researcher, but any real researcher who has video or film or still photos, they're going to go, oh man, because now with visual effects, like you said, Dan, anything, I could have an alien petting my dog in my living room right now and take a picture of it and send it around. I'm a publicist. I could probably send it to CNN. They'd look at it. They'd say, how do we know this? How do we know this is real? Who the hell are you, Dan? We're going to believe. You're right. It could be, they could land in the White House lawn and half of the country would say, oh, that's just Trump pulling a hoax. AI, so visual effects and now AI are the enemy. They're the enemies of the truth in this regard. Anything can be created falsely. And my fear is that if any of us tonight, if any of the 5 of us tonight went outside, I walk my dog at night. If I saw a huge UFO tonight when I walked my dog at 10 o'clock and took a picture and sent it all around the world, I guarantee people would say, oh, that's BS. I don't believe you. That's not real, Dan. Who the hell? You're just trying to promote your UFO group, Dan. That's what I would get. So you're right. Visual effects and AI are the enemy of this. Now, let me just jump ahead. Steven Spielberg's next film, I believe you all know this, comes out next June. It's called Disclosure. His next film is called Disclosure. The storyline has not been revealed. It's top secret. It stars Emily Blunt. And the fact that movie is called Disclosure, I was having lunch with Steve Bassett the day that was announced. You guys can imagine Steve Bassett. Dan, he's on his phone. Dan, Spielberg's new movie is called Disclosure. He literally stood up and he's doing like a dance at Factor's Deli, reading Pastrana. He's doing a dance. Okay, so that could be huge. Also, you probably don't know this. There's a very, very famous Hollywood producer named Jerry Bruckheimer. Jerry Bruckheimer did the Beverly Hills Cop movies, the Top Gun movies, Flashdance, Armageddon, a million movies. Jerry
Bad Boys 2. I just need to throw that in there. I met Mr. Bruckheimer on the sidewalk.
Right. That's right. You mentioned Bruckheimer. Okay, so Bruckheimer is working with, ready for this, David Grush on a film next year called The Dish. So next year we have Spielberg's Disclosure movie and Jerry Bruckheimer, David Grush, The Dish, coming out. 2 things next year. Now, look back at 2001. Or Close Encounters, or E.T., right? Or some of the Day the Earth Stood Still. Some of these classic films became water cooler talk. I mean, everyone in the world was talking about these. We have 2 major filmmakers next year coming out with 2 major UFO films. Now, that could help propel disclosure forward. But again, I don't think it'll be official. But I think at some point the masses of people are going to say, you know what? I believe extraterrestrials are real. I think that's what.
Well, Dan, not to interrupt you, but you left out one of the most spectacular, from a spectacle standpoint, science fiction films in the last 30 years, ID4, Independence Day, that took place, a large part of it, at Area 51.
Yeah, but they came to kill us and eat us,
Who's to say there aren't a faction that wants to do that?
Okay, no, you're right. That was a big one. It was influential, but it was Will Smith punching an alien in the face. I mean, it was a comic book movie to me.
Yeah, but Dan, let me just jump in here for a second, because there are some things you know, through the investigations that I've done with MUFON and stuff like that, there has been very much that feeling that you had of love and stuff. I've had that told to me by experiencers. But on the same token, and this is why we don't know what species are here or what they're doing, I've had people who've been absolutely terrified. I mean, hurt, damage, physical effects of people, pilots who've had physical effects, people who have been absolutely, tortured in some ways.
Yes.
Now, if there is a thing that's going on that maybe this is part demonic, as you said, I mean, there's got to be a component of this, like you're saying, and I agree with you, what you're saying, that if there's a part that's demonic and evil, wouldn't that be something that they'd want to keep to the side? Because they wouldn't know how do you tell the world and say, listen, there's some good guys visiting us, but we got a problem here? Because, if you look at history, there has been what people believe to be intergalactic wars that, ancient people have seen from the sky, stuff of that nature.
Well, again, Nick Pope said to a room full of people, many of you are waiting and praying for disclosure. He goes, I have to tell you from personal knowledge that I have, be careful what you wish for. I know that some of these races are demonic and evil, and we'd probably be better off not knowing about them. Now, I don't think Nick is a disinformation agent of the British government. Some people think he is. I don't think he is. I know Nick quite well. But the way he said it, Chris, it was like, wow, this guy really seems to know that as a fact.
Well, what's your feeling of it, Dan? I mean, you hear something like that. What's your feeling?
Earl Grey Anderson, may he rest in peace, he once told me he had been abducted and experimented on, and it was very painful. They took him from his sleep, but his wife was like paralyzed. She didn't know, and he was gone for a few hours. He came back, and they did all kinds of experiments on him. He said it sucked. It was very painful. So, yeah, I absolutely believe. I think there's good, bad, and ugly extraterrestrials. And here's what I think. Originally, the Roswell crash, we all know the Roswell crash really happened. President Truman pulled the press release. We have a flying saucer who pulled the press release. That was day one of the truth embargo, July 8th, 1947. That's the day the truth embargo started. It was the day that poor Jesse Marcel had to do, the tinfoil trick with Roger Ramey. Steve Bassett said it was the tinfoil that wrapped Roger Ramey's fish for lunch that day. So that's pretty funny. But that's when it started. And if you're Truman now, why would you want to cover it up if you're Truman? World War II just ended. A couple of things. World War II just ended. The world was shocked by 2 nuclear bombs a couple of years before. And a few years before, Orson Welles' broadcast, War of the Worlds, 1938, scared the crap out of hundreds of people, coast to coast. People had heart attacks from the War of the Worlds, the fake Martian landing. So if you're Harry Truman, I could understand in 1947, you'd want to cover that up. I could understand.
Well, for one thing, the aliens, the UFOs, were showing a totally distinct interest in all the nuclear facilities the United States had at that time.
That's right.
Okay. And it was the A-bombs, Nagasaki, Hiroshima, that really brought them out into the skies again. They wanted to know, what are these monkeys doing down there with nukes?
That's exactly right. They're going to destroy this beautiful planet that we take gold and water. Apparently, they take water and they take gold.
Let me just go ahead, Commander. I want to get you in here.
Commander, did you?
No, I my question is towards the end. We'll give it to Dan now. Dan, you have a great audience. I call it the greatest audience on the planet that listens to this great station and network. What would your message be to the audience that you would like to see for your group going forward with this kind of movement that you're describing?
Okay, thank you. That's very sweet. Well, if anyone, and I really appreciate you guys having me on, anyone who's watching or listening now, go to HollywoodDisclosureAlliance.org. You can read all about our members and our mission statement and how we came together and all these things, upcoming events and all that. There is a join button. I get new members. I'd say probably maybe 3 members a week from all over the world. People write to me and they join up. So we're trying to create hundreds and hundreds of people on both sides, on the experiencer side and on the Hollywood side. And honestly, the Hollywood side is harder because less and less people in Hollywood are brave. It's really true. Goldie Hawn, Kurt Russell, Demi Lovato. There's all these very famous celebrities in Hollywood in the last few years. Many, many, many dozens have come out and said they've had ET experiences in their lives. I have written to all of those people, all of those celebrities through their publicists, including Steven Spielberg. I've invited him in twice. And they say, thank you very much. We appreciate it. We don't want to, we don't want to go public, really. We don't really want to, Fran Drescher doesn't want to talk about her ET experiences anymore. So there's very few people in Hollywood that are brave enough to embrace this. Now, there is one exception, two exceptions. Shirley MacLaine, who is a member of our group, and a movie star named Thomas Jane. If any of you, in fact, Thomas Jane is going to...
I'll be talking to Thomas Jane in a week.
Thomas is going to be at this MUFON symposium. Thomas is a good friend of mine and Steve Bassett's. Thomas Jane is a movie star, a legitimate movie TV star. 15 years ago, he had an experience in his home. He lives near Hollywood. He had an experience at 3 a.m. in his home that he's never revealed exactly what happened, but it scared the crap out of him. And it was supernatural, paranormal, whatever it was. And he has been a proponent of disclosure for the last 15 years. Thomas Jane, Jane, you could look him up. He spoke at Contact in the Desert. He's speaking at the MUFON Symposium. He spoke to my group, Hollywood Disclosure Alliance, a few times. So anyway, to answer Commander's question, we're trying to get more members. That's number one. Number two is, we haven't gotten to this yet. In mid-March this year, a few months ago, I launched the wowsignal.news. The wowsignal.news. It is a news online resource for global ufologists. We have 700,000 people that we send our emails to. We get press releases from all over the world, including Danny Sheehan and Steve Bassett and Paul Hynek and Nick Pope and Richard Dolan and everybody you could name. So we are a news resource. Every Monday, we put up new news on the site. And then every Thursday, we call that news into a newsletter. And that newsletter goes around the world to about 700,000 people. We're trying to hit over 1 million. So, Commander, anyone who's watching now, if you have a story, a press release, a book, a film, a cartoon, a photo. Every week we do UAP photo of the week. Go to the wowsignal.news, click on the contact button that goes right to me, and send me your information, because we are trying to create a global news community with that. So HDA is members networking group. Wow Signal is a global news group. That's the best I can do with my time. Those two things.
That's great.
Dan, I have 2 papers I'd like to send to you. Would you be
Absolutely. I would love to.
in
I would love to
them?
read them. Yes, absolutely. Yes. All you guys, any of you guys. If you have any, really,
hold on.
If you have
your
news about
email on the
over here, private chat. You want me to do private chat? Okay, do it right now.
Why are you doing that?
Send your email.
I'll put it. Let me see if it goes through. Okay, it's in that private chat.
Dan, while you're doing that, I want to just ask this question, because I think this is one of the reasons, if it's true, one of the reasons why we'll never see disclosure from the government. So everybody has talked before about the Eisenhower meeting that they've had, where if this is, I don't know if it's true or not. I could be all garbage, but it could be true. The Eisenhower met with these ETs, and he's for their technology, he sacrificed so many people per year or per whatever,
and cattle.
Yeah,
I heard,
to be abducted, right?
Yeah.
So if you're allowing kidnapping of a human being, how can you come back 40, 50 years later and say, well, yeah, there's disclosure? Because the first thing people are going to say, well, what about the abduction theory? Did you do that? And then somebody will whistleblow that, and sure as hell, saying, well, Eisenhower did this. Now you got a big problem on your hands, because you're saying that you're allowing the U.S. government to admit to authorize kidnapping of individuals without their consent to be prodded, probed, and assaulted, right?
Oh, how about this? If the ETs, if they gave us, I think it's been proven that they gave us anti-gravitonal, whatever the word is, anti-gravity technology.
Yeah.
But if they gave us, let's say in the 40s or 50s, in fact, I think my father probably knew about the anti-gravity stuff. In the 40s or 50s or whenever, if ETs gave our grandsons of Majestic 12 free energy to be used for the benefit of mankind, and all these decades, our military and our government have kept the oil oligarchs going, right? Oil, gas, coal, nuclear, lithium batteries, all that. If all of those things could have been eliminated 40 years ago, and everyone could have free energy forever, how about that one? That's probably killing people and cattle is probably worse. But how about the free energy that we could have had 40 years ago?
They did it with Tesla.
They had
JP Morgan did it with Tesla.
They knocked him off. I think they knocked him off. How about Forrestal? You guys know the James Forrestal story? Is that not remarkable?
You mean he was thrown out a window? Yeah.
James Forrestal was, he was a couple things. He was friends with JFK. Okay, how about this? I don't know if you knew this. Forrestal was friends with JFK. JFK apparently told Marilyn Monroe in bed about aliens at Roswell, but that's a side story. Forrestal, of the original Majestic 12, from what I've read, is that Forrestal was the one guy. There's 12 guys. Oh, we can't tell anybody. This is our secret. We can't tell the Russians. We can't tell anyone. And Forrestal's like, hey, what if we tell the world aliens are real? Right? And then they commit him to a mental hospital and throw him out a window. And his family said he was not depressed. How about that? That bothers me.
He was going to be picked up that day.
That bothers me you know what? That bothers me really badly.
Oh yeah, he went out the window the night before he was going to be released from the hospital.
He was assassinated. He was probably, I would think, because it was early in the 40s, late 40s. He was probably the earliest human cadaver that was involved with the UFO cover-up.
Well, I cover that in my disclosure paper, and I cover that.
I'd love to read it. Yeah,
by stating that immediately following the Roswell event, whatever that event was, I wasn't there, so I can't say it was a spaceship. I believe it was, but I couldn't testify to that. But I can tell you within 6 weeks, number one, the Central Intelligence Agency was created.
Right.
We didn't have one during all of World War II.
That's right.
We had the OSS, but we didn't have something like
Majestic
the
12
CIA.
and the CIA both happened in September 47. That's right.
Also, the United States Air Force became its own service entity as it was stripped from the Army.
Right. That's
and
right.
last and most ominous, the National Security Act was signed into law, which means that anything up to and including murder, Dan, is sanctioned under the National Security Act of 1947 if a person is deemed a security threat. Forrestal would have been deemed a security threat.
I totally agree with you. And the fact that he was friends with JFK. Okay, so first of all, FDR knew about UFOs. Why? The Battle of Los Angeles was 1942. Foo Fighters were 43, 44. FDR didn't die till 45. So FDR knew, Truman knew, Eisenhower definitely knew, Kennedy knew, Johnson I'm sure knew, Nixon probably knew. I think from what I've seen or read, it went through Reagan and then Bush Sr. because he was the head of the CIA. Bush Sr. and Dick Cheney, they knew everything. Those two guys knew everything. And Cheney's still alive. If we could put Cheney in a chair and strap him to a chair and inject Cheney with truth serum, we would find out about 9/11 and UFOs and so many other things that have been covered. Cheney knows a lot of dirt. I'm sure he does.
Dan, I hate to be so disrespectful. I am going to try to level the field here. Do you think any Democrats know anything? You seem to have a very strong ilk, and I don't mean to be disrespectful in any way, but I'm trying to maintain a little balance.
No, I understand. Well, Clinton tried to get the UFO files. He couldn't. Jimmy Carter. You guys know Danny Sheehan. You all know Danny Sheehan. Danny Sheehan says this story. He has said this many times. Danny Sheehan was a lawyer for President-elect Jimmy Carter. President-elect Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter met with George H.W. Bush, the head of the CIA at the time. And Carter said, George, I'm going to be the president soon. I want all the UFO files. And George H.W. Bush said, Mr. President-elect, with all due respect, it's above your pay grade. I can't give you that information. Jimmy Carter didn't get it. Clinton didn't get it. Obama didn't get it. Hillary Clinton was running. She promised that she would try to get it, but she didn't win, obviously. I don't think any, personally, I don't think any Democrats after Kennedy.
Okay, I'm sorry. I got to go silent here. I appreciate you answering that question. Thanks, Dan.
No? Okay.
Padre.
Yes. I think that as far as politicians go, there's something going on there, but I'm not part of the deep state, so I don't really know what is. I think that when disclosure comes, and I do think it's going to come, I think it's going to come in the form of what's popularly known as catastrophic disclosure. And I think it may be forced by the fact that, we talk about malevolent or benevolent entities, whatever they are. When I look at the balance of encounters with the beings, I see far more malevolent than I see benevolent. We don't, if there are benevolent beings and it's within their power, why do they allow the malevolent ones to go into bedrooms and grab people and rape them and inseminate them and torture them and so forth?
Right.
I really struggle with that. Dan, do you have a comment on that?
No, I agree with you. I think the malevolent ones are probably more dominant. I think the benevolent ones, maybe somehow they are able to keep them in check. There are ancient history stories of battles. You've seen that. Maybe I think it's like 1620. That wood carving when there's there's a UFO battle, and I think it was above England or something. And there was a UFO, all kinds of spaceships were shooting at each other.
Yeah, and the ones in India.
That was in Germany.
Germany, that's right.
That show even much older than that. So, bringing up a television show here, because I think we all have to admit that Gene Roddenberry was prescient in many ways. One of his lesser-known series that at least the first 2 years were pretty good was called Earth Final Conflict. And that was about a benevolent race, supposedly, that came to Earth, revealed themselves to everybody at the same time and gave us nice things. But then we find out, plot spoiler here, if you haven't seen it, that what their motivation is to sway the people of Earth to align with them against the malevolent entities, because they were losing that war and they needed troops. If we absolutely look at this and say it is in the nature of beings to pursue that which is in their own self-interest, we have to, and it's one of the core questions of ufology. What do they want? What do the benevolent ones want? They say they want us to take care of the planet. Well, that's nice. I think everybody would say that they don't want the planet to be polluted, destroyed, or whatever. It's pretty banal, if you ask me, that message. If they wanted to bring that about, they could certainly give us the technology, maybe cold fusion, maybe 0-point energy or something along those lines, to help us clean up the planet instead of just sitting there in the bleachers with their popcorn, watching the malevolent ones do night raids in our bedrooms.
But Dan, maybe they have.
Explain, please.
Maybe they have.
Yeah.
If the benevolent ones gave our military leaders, our scientists, whoever works underground in Arizona and New Mexico, in the huge military bases that are underground, I'm sure Don knows about those, then perhaps they've given them this free energy and whatever, said, here, use this for the benefit of mankind. And the great-grandsons of the Majestic 12 says, there goes all the oil, the global economics of the entire planet Earth. If we no longer used oil, this is what Richard Dolan says, if we no longer used oil, it would change the global economics of every country on the planet. So maybe they have, Dan, and maybe they just haven't, the powers that be haven't. But what you're saying is, why don't they land in Times Square and hand out free energy, to people passing by? Well, that would be terrific.
Yeah, and yes, would it absolutely upend the world economy? Well, yeah, but if you look at the world economy, it's not in real great shape as it is. So
now would be a good time.
Now would be a good time to hit the reset button. So if you're out there watching this podcast on the Good Guy team, come on down, as they say, and give us a hand down here.
All right. So in my book,
careful what you ask for.
In my book, after they came, which just came out on audiobook, it's on Amazon. Just came out on audiobook. Please check it out after they came. In my book, I have benevolent Pleiadians, male and female, that come to Earth to save mankind, working through this poor schlub on page 1 who's drowning himself on his birthday. He's 70 years old. He hates his life. Drowning himself in the Pacific Ocean on his birthday. He hates his life. They come out of the Pacific Ocean, the aliens, in a huge ship. They save his life. They beam him up. They slowly travel to Dodger Stadium. They beam down, and they say, people of the Earth, we're here. We love you. We're here to solve all your problems. We just saved this guy's life. This guy is important to us. Work through him. He will be our ambassador to Earth. Then they leave, and then for the rest of the book, this guy becomes world famous, but they give us free energy. They melt all the nuclear weapons. They solve famine and cure every disease. It's a utopian book. Nick Pope called my book a delightful tale of wonder and hope.
I just find it odd they'd pick a suicidal 70-year-old for their ambassador.
Well, here's why, and I'll give this away. His father, the guy who was killing himself, his father saved the life of one of the aliens 70 years earlier. It was a payback. It was a payback as a thank you. It was a thank you. That's the twist to the book. I shouldn't have said it, but read the book, or get the audiobook and listen to it.
Yeah.
It took me a year and a half to record. It took forever.
Dan, let me ask you this. Do you think maybe we're looking at this wrong? Maybe they might be kind to us, or they don't give a damn about us, but maybe it's not us they're interested in. Maybe it's just the planet. Maybe if we go, they could go, okay, they're gone, because it could be that this planet is special, or, there's not too many. Let's face it. This planet has all the stuff that you need to sustain life, right?
I think that's a great point. The Earth is much more valuable to them than we are. We're transitory creatures. There have been ice ages. There've been the Great Flood of Noah, which likely happened. And the ETs, like Don said, they go back to the Bible. They've been around for, if they built the pyramids, it turns out that they say the Sphinx is probably 11,000 years old, not 3,000 years old. So they've been here forever. They've come and gone forever. They've seen civilizations come and go. And like one of you guys said, during the 40s, when it was the nuclear age and we were blowing up Japan, they're like, uh-oh, these morons, we better start showing up now. These morons are going to ruin our beautiful planet. So, yeah, I don't think maybe they give a crap about us. Maybe they don't care about us at all.
I'm starting to believe that, to be honest with you. And to quote Jim Mars, the kids found the matches. And then all of a sudden we're seeing this. But it's not just that, because, if you believe, ancient history of ufology, they used us as slaves to mine minerals. They
gold.
Gold. to be
Zechariah
specific.
Sitchin. That's what Zechariah Sitchin.
Right.
That was
And
his theory.
also, our water is very precious. Our sun is very precious. I got a friend who's down in Florida, has unbelievable pictures of crafts near the sun, actually taking solar flares, right, what looks like a solar flare, and using it, to energize a ship. I mean, that's our only hypothesis, but whether it's true or not, we don't know. But it sure looks interesting to me that these crafts are just so close to the sun. Then we have them where people have said, hey, they've funneled up water through the Hudson River or the ocean or whatever.
Or Mexico. Chase Klutsky did a story that she went to Mexico, and the mayor of Mexico was with her, and he said to her, why are these UFOs sucking up our whatever huge lake where they got their fresh water? Why are they sucking up all our water? Can you do something, Chase Klutsky? She goes, I can't do anything. What do you want me to do about it?
Well, there was a military person that says that they use it for power, because if you could separate the hydrogen from the oxygen, you could make helium-4, and from helium-4, now you got a tremendous amount of power as far as that goes. Let me just before I get to the others, let me just ask you this, because I want to pivot a little. So you wrote a book called 5, and this interests me because it's about a serial killer.
Okay.
That comes back. What's that all about?
All right, here's my book 5. 5 is about it's amusing how I came up with it, but it's a very serious. It's a dark book. It's on Amazon. I walk 5 miles every other day here in my neighborhood, and one day I was walking 5 miles, and I just in my head I saw the word 5, F-I-V-E. I said, that's such a good, strong, powerful word, 5. I just love that word, 5. I go, that would be an interesting nickname for a person. And then I said, what would his name be? And then it was Fievel. Okay, Fievel, 505. Okay, that would be good. Then you guys, for some reason, I told you I worked with Bruce Springsteen when I was 16 years old. And this is on one of my walks. I came up with this off the wall idea. I said, what if Bruce Springsteen was a serial killer? Like, or Paul McCartney or any Mick Jagger. What if a world famous beloved character we all love and adore, and at night he puts on a cape and he has like knives and he kills women? And I came up with that idea. So my book 5 is about a serial killer who is a famous actor in 1880s Europe. He's a famous actor and has all these accolades. And at night he's like Jack the Ripper. He puts on a thing and he kills women. Okay, then he dies. 100 years later, exactly, he's reincarnated into a young boy in Boston named Billy Simon. And Billy Simon is a gifted singer-songwriter. And Billy Simon in the 70s now becomes like Bruce Springsteen. He's the biggest rock star in the world. But since he was reincarnated, he inherited this bloodlust. So he plays concerts for tens of thousands of screaming fans. Everyone's cheering. And then he gets in his car and he goes around and he kills women. So that's what 5 is. It's a serial killer that gets reincarnated 100 years later.
It's an interesting story. Don and I have both been investigators and worked homicides. So that's a book I think I want to pick up and
please do
take a look at.
You and my mother will be the 2 people to read it on the planet Earth.
Okay, well, you got
just because I've written 5 books doesn't mean I've sold that many. I haven't had much luck with selling books, but all my books are good. They all got good reviews.
Don, before the show ends here in a few minutes, go ahead.
I tell you the truth, Chris, I really don't have anything more to ask or say. I think we've covered many of the bases. I know my answers were covered by Dan. I was happy to see that he recognized that probably disclosure is not in the wings. I mean, you guys, you and Cobra and Padre, I mean, we kick this stuff around every week. So, I gotta say, Dan, other than the fact that I'm really glad you could make the show, and I found it very interesting. There's not a heck of a lot more I've got to contribute.
Chris, can I add one? I have one little
Sure.
more story to add, and I want your opinion on this one. So I've experienced 4 UFOs. Okay, so I told you about 3 of them. The 4th one was a year ago. 1 year ago at Contact in the Desert, 2024. The last night of Contact last year, Palm Springs, beautiful resort. We did a CE5 event. There were probably 200, 250 people outdoors at night, under the stars, beautiful, cloud-free night, Palm Springs, it would have been June 1st or June 2nd last year. So there's 200 people in an oval. We're holding hands. There's a man in the middle of this group. It's a CE5 event. He has a microphone. And he's going, we're all looking up at the sky. And he's going, oh, space brothers, please come down. Please show yourselves. We know you're there. We love you. We want to communicate with you. Please land. We'd like to talk to you. We want to show you how much we love you. Please come communicate. So this is going on for 2.5 hours. 2.5 hours. Now, that's a long time. Your neck, you guys know this better than me. Your neck, when you're looking up for 2, your neck really hurts after a while. So then the guy with the microphone said, okay, let's all lay down on the grass, look up at the sky, and just send up good vibrations, and we'll see what happens. Okay. So this is now 10:30. It was from 8 to 10:30. 10:30, laying on the grass. Now I look at my watch. I had to wake up really early the next morning for a meeting. So I look at my watch. I go, and I swear, I said to myself, if I don't see a UFO in the next 5 minutes, I'm going to bed. With that, now remember my story when I said I pulled out my keys? Remember I pulled out my keys and I said, Barbara, if we leave now, we can beat the rush. And then a craft came. Okay. This is last year. I said to myself, if I don't see a UFO in 5 minutes, I'm going to bed. Bang. In the sky above us, bang. There's not super loud, but it was like bang. Look up, a very dark gray cloud or smoke just suddenly appeared. Good sized dark gray cloud appeared. And I swear to God on my daughter's life, out of that cloud came a V craft. Slowly came out of the cloud. It was white. It had rounded tips, rounded tips. It was white like vanilla ice cream white. And it had a gold ribbon of color through it. It looked like vanilla ice cream with caramel. It was beautiful. Came out. And here's the best part. And you're not going to believe me. Underneath, so a V has 2 wings. Underneath each wing were 3 octopus suction pods. So 3 and 3. They were translucent. They were clear brown. They were lit up. And they were going like this. Boom, 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 boom. They were pulsing. And I said to the guy next to me, whatever that thing is, that's alive. It was a craft that had a living entity creature of some kind, looked like an octopus, underneath it. And it went for about 12, 15 seconds, and then it vanished. I swear to God, that is a true story.
Dan, was the shape of it similar to what you remember from Asbury Park with your dad?
That was a huge metal silver craft, huge with pointy tips. This was almost like a boomerang, like an Australian boomerang. It was much smaller, rounded tips, beautiful. It was a beautiful, visually beautiful color. It was white with gold. And again, when I saw this, I felt elated. And the guy next to me, we were like doing high fives, like, wow, can you see that? Wasn't that great? Yeah, was that great? I felt elated. I didn't cry, but I felt elated. But the octopus suction pods that are pulsing, they look like heartbeats. It was, they were all beating in sync, boom, 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 and they were translucent. They were lit up. What the hell was that? Seriously, what could that possibly have been, you guys? I have no idea.
Have you ever been abducted?
Not that I'm aware of.
Not by
You're ready for that movie.
I'm not, and I'm not looking forward to it. If I am, I'm hopefully not.
Yeah,
No, but whatever this was, here's what I think. I think it was a incredibly advanced vehicle that was part mechanical and part biologic. That is what it was. Now, was that U.S. military? Is that us from the future? Is that a race of ETs that have designed this? I don't know, but as God is my witness, that story is a true story. I've never been able to figure out what the hell that thing was.
Has anybody ever challenged you on your stories, Dan?
No, I'm not a BSer. I don't lie. I'm not a liar.
No, I mean, but your stories are unique.
They're pretty
And-
remarkable. I know they're pretty remarkable. That's why I'm involved with ufology. I have stories to share.
Right. I mean, yeah, a lot of people have you know, interesting stories, and a lot of them are unique. It's you had two that Commander just pointed out, two very similar stories there, where it almost like you called the crafts in. Do you think you called them in? Is that what you're saying?
In retrospect, I said to Barbara in 2008, if we leave now, we beat the Russian craft game. And the other time, I said to myself, if I don't see a UFO in 5 minutes, I'm leaving. And a craft came. Did I call them? I don't know. I think it's a wonderful coincidence. Do I have a relationship with them? Did my father have a relationship with them? And perhaps I'm in the loop somehow? I don't know. My dad's dead. I'll never know. I can't ask him. But these are all, I swear, these are all true stories.
And stuff. Padre, why don't you wrap it up for us?
Well, Dan, thank you for taking the time to be with us.
Sure,
tonight.
my pleasure. It was super fun.
Yeah, covered a lot of ground tonight. My compliments on the WOW signal, the website you've set up. It's
Thank you.
very, very clean, very professional looking. And
My daughter did that. She's a
did
graphic
she?
artist.
Yeah, she certainly did some nice work, and I'll be
Thank you.
reading some of those interesting articles that are posted there. How
Right.
often do you update the newsletter on that?
Every Monday.
Every Monday.
Every Monday.
Okay.
Yeah. And all of you, and Don especially, please send me any white papers, a guest opinion columns.
I think you're going to be very surprised by Don's paper, because I will tell you that there's two things that I truly believe that this group has done. One, Commander Cobra has really pointed out, and I believe that some of these things that we're seeing, like you're seeing, are ours and stuff, just simply by, you know, not only his experience of aviation, but the way he describes it. And second, if you really want to know something, you ought to read Don's paper, because Don's paper will send a chill up your spine, but it will also kind of make you believe that maybe there is something nefarious going on. I mean, it convinced me. So that's why we're kind of like this, because there's a spiritual component. All of us will tell you, we all believe there's a spiritual component to this whole thing.
I totally agree. And I'm looking forward to Don's paper. Just to summarize real quick, when I went to the deli to mourn my father and I saw that little home movie and then did that automatic writing, I personally feel I was invited into your world. This is only 2017. I've only been deeply involved in your world, you guys, only since 2017, when that event happened to me. Had I not gone to get a deli sandwich that day, and if I hadn't had that little movie, the Hollywood Disclosure Alliance wouldn't exist. Half of my books wouldn't exist. The WOW signal wouldn't exist. I wouldn't be the publicist for Contact in the Desert. I wouldn't have my own podcast. I was invited in at the deli, either by my father or benevolent ETs or the universe. But I'm very grateful. It's enriched my life incredibly the last few years. I've made hundreds and hundreds of new friends, including you guys. I've done interviews all over the world, and I have a presence in ufology. And people have said to me, Dan, you just injected yourself into ufology. I go, I guess so. I was invited in.
Well, for what it's worth, Dan, you got me jonesing for that damn sandwich you mentioned.
I know. Go get a pastrami sandwich. I know the pastrami. So great.
All right. Well, we got to wrap up the show. So for Don Ecker, Commander Cobra, Dan, the Padre Carlson, we all want to say thank you, Dan, for being with us tonight. And you know what? Good night.